Hi there, it's Kevin with Gone Rogue Games. I'm going to do a different type of video today rather than the ranty video about the Magic the Gathering apocalypse, which is going on, and also kind of address some of the comments that have been bugging me. I don't know why I care about the comment section. I know the vast majority of you have left just absolutely amazing and encouraging comments, but geez almighty, some of the comments acting like that we aren't even like a legitimate game store, or like, yeah, this is what happens if you only go on Magic the Gathering. You shouldn't have, you're not a real business if Magic the Gathering collapses and you can't survive. And that the whole thing, I think people get the wrong idea of why I'm just kind of upset. And the main reason is that Magic the Gathering was the reason why I started the store, because how in love I was with the game and how it just played like a pivotal role in my life when I was younger, and lunchrooms in the cafeteria. And after my I've told this story before on other channels and stuff, but I was in a pretty bad place after my breakup with my fiance. I was with the girl for 4 years and she was pretty crazy. And by the end of the relationship, I had very little friends. She'd run away all my friends and family because they were sick of dealing with her and sick of dealing with my enabling her. And so I kind of went back to gaming as a kind of an escape after the relationship. And the first local game store that I started patroning was just instant friends that I met through Magic. So that's kind of why I've always loved this game store, or just the local game store kind of business model, is because of what role it played in my life of kind of what I like to call my recovery of when I was in a really, really horrible place. Like I said, the instant friends. I started to play a lot of drafts and standard, and then we started to make a play group where we were practicing for Grand Prix. Actually traveled with a bunch of them, and it was just something to do. We could look forward, like no matter how crappy I felt or how kind of down in the dumps I was, I could always look forward to draft nights and Friday Night Magic. And so yeah, Magic has played a very kind of pivotal role in my life, giving me a nice little outlet and met a lot of awesome people. And then later on, when I got my sponsorships through Cool Stuff and Gathering Magic and started doing YouTube videos, I met a lot of people around the world that also kind of was united through Magic the Gathering. So that was the big inspiration for me starting the store. So some of these, I mean, they're more than insulting. Some of these comments about, kind of like where am I going with this? Like basically telling me I deserve to fail, deserve to have, everything I work for go to the dumps because this is what happens when you rely on one company. Well, we didn't. We didn't rely on one company. We are a full-fledged game store that has a lot to offer. So the thing about this too is we are in a very, very small area. We're in a town about of 8,000 people, and I would say it serves about 20,000 people in the surrounding areas. There's not a game store within 100 miles of where we're at. The closest one is like Cedar City, Utah. If you go north, it's up in Utah County, which is like Orem or Provo. So when I moved back here to my hometown, I was just really wanting a place to play. And there wasn't a store here. I did meet some guys. They started a store. It didn't last very long. It lasted about 2 years. And then when it closed the doors, I decided that me and my buddy, we really, really wanted to keep the community alive here and kind of the scene alive here, because we both really enjoyed gaming and meeting up, and we both valued what a game store offered to the community. And we scrapped together little money. Like, we did this not the best way. I was starting a business. I do not encourage other people to start a business the way we did, but we are both single guys with very little expenses, and we both worked at the time, and we worked while the store was starting, and we scrounged together what little money we had. In fact, Zach knew the owner of the building, so we got a good deal on the building. And that's how we started this place, is by just very strict financial, like not going crazy on purchases. If you go back to old Rogue Deck Builder videos, you can actually see this store. We had one shelf with a little bit of Magic, and we just had a play group that was coming in and drafting and doing, standard, and we were able to, scrounged together. I think we came up with like what, $2,500 for the first pre-release, and it was make or break. Is either we sold the pre-release, we sold out of the pre-release, so we could pay our expenses and be able to afford the next pre-release, or we basically just would have to call it good there and be like, okay, we tried, because that's how tight the money was. And again, I do not recommend that anyone that wants to start a game store goes that route. You should be saving up tens of thousands, if not like over $100,000 before you start a store, if you want to open up, have employees, and be able to rely on like sales right off the bat. Now, again, we are in a unique position because neither one of us were make or break on the store. We opened up, I believe, like between 3 o'clock. We opened up after our jobs, and then came and worked the store. And at first too, we were only open when it was like viable to be open with our our full-time jobs, and not establishing a big recognition here in the community of people knowing we're open. Is basically people who knew what we were and would come in. And it is zoomy time as I get knocked over by these weirdo dogs because they need to go out in the hall. Go out in the hall. Come on, Bruce. You guys are exiled. Now they'll probably bang on the door. So anyway, that's kind of the origin stories of Gondor Games. Is again, it came from extremely humble beginnings, and then we started to expand when we could afford it. So I don't know where I'm going with this video. I just wanted to kind of introduce all the new subscribers to who we are, what we're about, and a lot of the things you see here. You might even see this store and be like, oh, this is like such a kind of a hole in the wall. This is kind of a tiny store comparatively speaking of what you. Well, that's kind of what this area can afford. There's no one else on payroll. There's just us. That's me and Zach do everything. And we've slowly been able to even expand into like paints, D&D books. And I'm actually very proud of where we've come, like Warhammer, Pokemon. We are to capacity of what this store really can do. We have all the Magic sets from back when we started, clear back in Battle for Zendikar, even going back to like Return to Ravnica. I think I have everything in stock. We have all the Pokemon. We have even things like My Hero Academia, Flesh and Blood, Orcana. Like all of that thing is stock. So we are doing business besides just Magic the Gathering. You can see over here, I have a vast variety of board games. Have the Asmodee bestseller line that we have, a contract with Asmodee to keep those in stock. We have even things like Star Wars Shatterpoint and Legion and all those types of board games, and all those things they do sell and they do well. And I guess that just the whole reason I'm so bitter though is because it was all started with Magic the Gathering, and it was such a stable market and stable environment that I was very I just had a lot of confidence in it. And you can see back Zach probably pulling cards back here, because that's all you always do is pull cards for deck lists. But I mean, this is the stuff we've accumulated too over, and I don't think this was a bad decision to, this is what you need to be doing as a store, because if people come in and want to play, they're going to want to buy the cards. And this is one of the whole reasons of being a marketplace, is making sure that you have the cards for people to build decks. Otherwise, then the growth in the community stagnates as people have to order cards online or just wait for that type of stuff. So I don't know. Some of those comments were kind of getting to me with like, just the stupid is stupid does type thing, and you deserve to fail, you deserve to go under, because I think we have run a pretty tight ship and done what we can to try to cultivate the best type of business we can under the circumstances that we had. So I am extremely proud of what we've been able to accomplish here, and we've had a lot of awesome memories and good times here at the store. And that's even like, we always talk about like moving locations to a bigger location and maybe making that leap to have more space, because I think in our area too, if we get like more involved in other hobbies, that would probably be a good thing. Maybe we need to look at other, besides just like board games and card games, like just getting into like the trendy hobbies to generate a little more revenue and whatnot. But I mean, there's just so much nostalgia in this store. There's so many memories over the past 7-8 years that we've been in business, that it's this is just it's again something I'm very proud of, and it is just home for me in this store. So anyway, there's kind of my introduction. Again, I'll try not to make some of these asinine comments on the comment section really get to me, because if you're gonna get the trolls and the the people that are just out to be negative and, you know, crap on everything, no matter where you go. And I'm sure I've rubbed people the wrong way and made some enemies, and especially with my very strong opinions on the secondary market and why it matters, and why, you know, these are more than just game pieces, and they shouldn't, you know, they should reflect the cost of the product you're buying, not that, you know, that all these people are like, oh, I wish I could get 15-cent Black Lotuses. okay, whatever. Anyway, let's just go through the store and see. I'm going to show you kind of what we do have to offer. And this is where I did finally expand, because we really, I figured we've kind of capped out what we can do in this area. We have a good stream of, you know, locals and tourists, but, you know, game stores probably do need to be in bigger areas than ours to sustain long term. Like we've had some pretty large Magic the Gathering groups in the past, but those things come and go as well. We still have a decent sized Commander group that plays. We still have people that come in. We just got done with board game night, and so we do have things we can rely on, you know, month after month, week after week for people. But I have noticed a massive stagnation in sales of Magic. And unfortunately, I think that most game stores do rely too much on Magic, because it is the big breadwinner. I've talked in the past in other videos too that I think that even board games, the entire genre of things like board games, they owe so much to Magic the Gathering, because without that massive hobby, without that big, you know, breadwinner of a it's like all the sports programs in this is really going to rub people the wrong way, but a lot of sports programs in like college owe a lot to college football, because it subsidizes the rest of them for all the revenue it brings in. And that's not true across all schools, but anyway, it's kind of like that with the gaming industry, that a lot of these ones, their whole entire existence is owed to Magic the Gathering, because I don't think the gaming world would have been able to establish the way it has without something that got such a dominant presence in kind of the culture. So yeah, and if not, I mean, you wouldn't see, you know, LGSs. You'd still see board games, but they'd probably have to be in like big box stores, or, you know, stores that did other stuff. So if you're in the area, great, you have this store that I have no intentions of ever closing until we both get bored and sick of it. The good news about this store is it does pay its overhead and then some, with just our local traffic and stuff. And, you know, we haven't done a lot of like selling on eBay and TCG Player, because we were riddled with fraud, and it left a real bad taste in our mouth, especially when we didn't have any money. It just was awful when you get like a $300 purchase on eBay, and then, you know, you lose it all because eBay always sides with the buyer. I mean, back in the day, it was really, really horrific at that point, the way that eBay just didn't care if you were a small account and whatnot. But I'll have to tell you some horror stories in the past for it. But as you can see though, you know, I think there's been a lot of love put in this store. And if you aren't a local and you do want to get in on kind of our brand and what we're about here, I think that's where we were able to kind of pivot back in 2018 and start the Patreon, when I realized that I could do a good service for people that don't either have a local game store or just don't like patronizing their local game store. Have a lot of my patrons, they live in extremely rural areas and run like play groups, and then I'm able to provide them with everything they need to get going for a play group. So I'm just kind of show you around the store and what we have. So some of my favorite products and what I like to stock. If you have any suggestions of what like you buy at your game store, I'd love to hear them. I'm always interested in, you know, new products and things that maybe I just haven't, you know, looked at. So binders, of course, you're gonna need your accessories. We have this entire accessory wall here. This is my favorite binder, is the Dex binder. We love the zipper 12 pocket Dex binder. It's my favorite one out of. So Dragon Shield makes some. They're a little more pricey for what you get. I prefer Dex over Dragon Shield. You can see like the Dragon Shield Codex here. And then GameGenic makes some as well, but again, they're a little bit more expensive, and the color schemes I think aren't just as sharp as the Dex. So my pick for like a binder, Dex binder by far, are the way to go. And yeah, they are pretty available for me to get, and they are a very, very durable, and just like I said, the colors pop. I actually really like them for that's really the only thing I get from Dex. I don't really order their deck. They have like deck boxes. They have a thing that's very similar to like the Archive or the Midnight or the Dungeon from GameGenic. And they have other deck boxes that are kind of similar to like these nests from Dragon Shield, or they're more like these sidekicks from GameGenic. You can see my Game Genic is very low. We got a restock coming here shortly to restock this sucker up because we've had a lot of Lorcana and Magic purchases for deck boxes lately, which is a good thing. Again, we're still generating that revenue where it's not complete doom and gloom like other people have suggested, where, you know, the troubling part is with it where Magic was so stable is I was getting into the whole, okay, I'm going to, you know, sit on some products. I'm going to leave 10% or 15% a lot of the times of things I order for, you know, future profit margins. You know, when boxes used to go up from, you know, $100 to $200, that's a smart thing to do, especially if you're a store and have an outlet to actually sell at the highest MSR, you know, the highest market price possible. Yeah, that's kind of the route that I was going. Now I'm getting sidetracked again as I was going to talk about products. This is kind of our wall of deck boxes from Ultimate Guard because boulders. You can see this. It's a lot of like Kevin's personality in this store. So I got my favorite binders. So of course I stock all the binders. We actually have more of these colors in the back. So if people actually want a different color, I have, you know, plain in the back because we just ran out of display space up here. That's one of the other things with retail space with a game store is look how much is dedicated. So this room and the room back here fits 2 tables back in there. I would say not quite 50%, but we're close to where, you know, almost 50% of my retail space needs to be for gaming. If not, I'm just a soulless store where people come in and buy stuff. And that wasn't the point of creating this store. This store was for people to come in and play and experience, you know, meeting people and just gaming. So that was the whole point. But unfortunately, you know, that takes a bunch of retail space of where I could be displaying things for sale. But I think we do pretty well with what we have here. So as far as like the Game Genic, I really do like this product line. I think they're the best like budget deck boxes are definitely, we don't even carry old, you guys didn't see that. We don't even carry Ultra Pro anymore because I think that these Game Genic are just a better deal. They're sometimes hard to get, so I'll order them in cases, and their colors are a little wonky. I wish they would have less, like, I don't know. The pastel-y colors, if they have more sharp colors like the Dex binders and stuff, but, you know, the salmon pink and whatnot. It is what it is, though. BCW is another option for this, but again, we quit carrying those a while back. This is kind of the leftovers of cases we used to buy, the BCWs, but again, I think the Game Genic is looking pretty sharp with stuff. Sometimes we need to reorganize things because they get pretty crazy in here. And do like Game Genic as well for like the bigger deck box holders for like the cards layers, the dungeons. Ultimate Guard also makes some good products for that. But you know, we have some odds and ends too for like the Ultra Pro, kind of Magic and Pokemon products. So got all of our board games, of course. So I a couple years back was really getting into board games. Used to go to some board game conventions. I actually started like board game night more than Magic night for a while there. Of course, Magic's always going to have that place. You know, there's things that I don't like playing 2-player board games. I think that's where Magic is the best. But as far as multiplayer, I don't like playing Commander or multiplayer Magic. So for that kind of experience, I think going to a board game is better. A couple of my favorite board games. We got the good old Terraforming Mars up here, which is one of my favorite games. It's got card drafting in it, which is one of my favorite mechanics in board games. We have Ark Nova is pretty cool up there. It's a fun game. Orleans is a fun game too. A couple of my other favorites over here being the Sentries. All of them are good. All the Sentries are fun. The Azules are fun. We got, of course, Marvel Splendor, which I play the death of because one of my friends just absolutely is obsessed with this game. So we play a lot of it. And we have the entire kind of sleeves. My go-to sleeves are the Dragon Shield sleeves. So we keep them all in the back. So we just have this swath up here, which people can look at the different colors. And I actually had to add a bunch of them that they, you know, good thing they usually come with 101 or 102 sleeves in the Dragon Shield boxes, because that way we're able to add it to the swath, which, by the way, there are 2 new Dragon Shield colors, Truth and Justice, that are coming out for the dual mats. So something about Dragon Shield too, they're going to start, some of these colors are not going to be available anymore because they're just going to make the dual mats. So the difference between dual mats and non-dual mats is the ability to see through them. They're not quite, I mean, they're transparent, so it doesn't work with cards that need to see the backs of them. Yeah, so typically like to keep most of these type of popular card shields. Usually have katanas in stock, but those have been impossible to get lately. So waiting for a Katana restock from Ultimate Guard. But same thing, Gamegenic is a good brand. The Dragon Shields are kind of my go-to for those. Yep, like to keep a little bit of snacks in. I wish we had more room for this. And then, yeah, people are always talking about, you should sell more snacks. You should. The problem is with that, again, you'd have to be a convenience store at that point. And the margins aren't even that decent on them. And I don't think that people realize that, yeah, gamers do consume some stuff, but not enough to really make a dent. Again, I would love to have more space for it in the future. It'd be really cool to actually pair up like a little pizzeria with a game store. But, I'd be the worst person in the world to run a restaurant. But on that, we try to keep as stocked full as possible for Magic the Gathering. We've actually had a lot of comments from people from, the bigger areas saying that their stores don't carry the kind of volume we have for Magic. It's kind of the opposite where, I was actually in Salt Lake at one of the major stores and all they had was standard sets. They had a few of like the stuff that was like Baldur's Gate or Commander Masters type stuff that was still recent, and then they only had standard, but they definitely didn't go back far with these type of packs. And same thing with Pokemon. We've been working our way backwards as we can with them. Of course, we have the paints and dice that we keep a pretty good selection of. Lots of Pokemon scattered where we can put it. We got the Warhammer. I don't really carry a lot of Star Wars Legion or Marvel Crisis Protocol or Marvel Champions, all those types of Arkham Horrors. Those type of stores, you'll see a lot of those, more of those type of games. And they take up a lot of retail space for, in my opinion, very few purchases. So we've kind of kept like the most important things that pack the most punch for how much retail space they actually do require. And that's why Magic is also incredibly good for that, is because just in this, the money is right here in this alone, where all these board games equal like one slot over there of one of the master sets. And they actually, what I always like to joke with people like, sell more board games, sell more of these other stuff, is we'd actually go through those Magic cards, those collector boosters quicker than we go through like these board games. So it's just not feasible to try to rely on board game sales, even though it's a good thing, of course, to have in a store. So I wish we had a little more space here. Eventually, I want to make this look a little bit more pretty, where we can, again, our store is so much more utility. We're trying to pack in as much possible. It kind of reminds you of that, those little Japanese stores that you see on corner markets where they just have like one guy sitting in a chair and just like every possible retail inch space is like, every nook and cranny has something for sale. So, but yeah, anyway, that's our little humble store. Again, I'm pretty sure in the future it will change. I mean, we did a big remodel last year and we're able to add some February, and we're able to add a lot more retail space. We have a lot of ideas of what we could do, but again, it's one of those things, like there are a lot of people that do grind and work a lot harder than I do with this, and more power to them. But at what point, you trade off your happiness for really just, going crazy. And again, it's like the things that matter, like we keep in stock. And then after that, it's like, it's a lot of work for less at that point. Like the scalability of that, the diminishing returns really starts to add up with stores. At that point, if we had a bigger retail place too, we'd probably need to, do more hours, which equals an employee, which at that point you have to justify all those type of stuff. And if anyone's ever dealt with payroll, it's a nightmare. If everyone ever dealt with employees, they're a nightmare. So that's why we choose to do, we're kind of capped out of what we can do with just the two of us running it, which again is what I think is just all in all better than really trying to scale it into a massive operation of if this town does grow, maybe in the future, that's something that will definitely. What are you staring at, dude? He's so interested in what you're doing.
I don't have any treats.
That's it. I just want to be a little more positive video because I've done a lot of ranty stuff, and trust me, I've got a lot more rants where that came from. I had to hold myself back with a Mark Rosewater tweet the other day because the guy, at this point, I just want him gone. Me and Mark had a pretty rough history. I used to be pretty mean to him on Twitter. I mean, there's been a lot of decisions I've made, but lately that guy has just been really rubbing me the wrong way with like the complete disconnect he has with exactly, and his know-it-all attitude too. That he basically tells us that all of our complaints are like invalid because the sales data doesn't show that. Our internal research doesn't show that. And meanwhile, all of us are just screaming. Just look at the comment section on my channel of all the people that have just, the wallet fatigue, the Magic doesn't feel like magic anymore, that type of stuff. But again, I'm digressing into that. Now you're getting me into a rant video. But again, to kind of address those comments, no, we're a full-fledged game store that we do try to branch off into this stuff when it is, you know, viable, where we can get into stuff like Lorcana or when Warhammer's hot and all that kind of stuff. And so we aren't just banking on Magic, but the whole reason why I'm so upset is coming from a place of Magic has been such an important part of my life for a long time, to the fact that I was you know, wanting to make a business out of it. And yeah, maybe I should have gone into something else. Maybe I should have gone into, you know, finance or God knows what. But I think the people with the type of passion for these type of things are the people that should start these stores. And you know, we were doing really well with Magic the Gathering. The growth was going crazy. The amount of equity year after year we were getting in you know, Magic products and stuff was just, you know, that was always, every time I felt poor, I could just look back at some of my stock and be like, wow, there's all this stuff we've worked hard for and we have. And it was sad to see a lot of these things just come crashing down for no rhyme or reason too. It wasn't, you know, all these people cheering because there's cheaper game pieces. Well, at the cost of what? Like, these things have to reflect the amount of the money that you spend on these packs, have to reflect what's in them. And yeah, it's not unreasonable margins too. A lot of people are like, oh man, you are charging crazy prices for these packs here. Well, I mean, these are impulse buys here. They're our best profit margins by the pack. We sell a lot cheaper by the box or give deals for pre-releases and stuff like that. But if industry-wide, these aren't even that bad prices, like markups, compared to if you know, go to McDonald's and buy your burger. They're marking up things probably more than we are for that type of stuff. But anyway, long video. It was supposed to be a short video. Hope everyone still enjoys this. See if I know how to look into the camera. About to get a little thing in there. Well, again, I'll do product reviews and stuff like that. No one watches them, the thing. That's the thing. I've kind of given people... What?
10K on one.
Okay, we have 10K on one, I guess. Well, anyway, I don't know. I kind of like this. Kind of just like vlogging and yelling at the clouds because I'm an old man. Got to take that idiot out. See you guys next time.